Join us on the program right now. Very pleased to have with us Jason Schabel, who is the Vice President of Remington Defense. And Jason, thanks for coming on the program this evening.
Thank you for having me, Cam.
My pleasure. Go ahead and if you can, just kind of eat that microphone. You got to get it right, nice and close to it.
Problem.
So we've seen for the past couple of days, CNBC has really been promoting this big investigative piece that they're doing here, Remington Under Fire, and this aired this evening. Interest of full disclosure, it aired while we were on the air, so I have not had a chance to watch this. You have, though, right? You watched what CNBC put out tonight?
Yes, sir, I have.
Okay. The allegations, as I understand it, are that they're saying that there's a problem with the Remington 700 that makes it prone to firing without anybody touching it, without the trigger being pulled. Is that in essence what they're alleging?
That's in essence the narrative that they supported through an hour of what we would consider to be irresponsible programming. CNBC is targeted. We are the largest bolt action manufacturer in this country, and obviously the most popular. Over about 5 decades, we've made over 5 million firearms, and they're enjoyed by a wide range of audiences. That's hunting, sporting, competition, and military and law enforcement. And CNBC squarely placed us in their crosshairs this evening to say that we have a defect, and they attempted to try to justify their thesis throughout with a loosely strung together series of data points that we feel relied more upon an emotional pull than the facts that we have as the manufacturer on hand.
Were they able? I mean, this was an hour-long television show. Did they show this defect? I mean, were they able to replicate this?
What they showed, if you take a Remington 700 and you don't alter it and you maintain it properly, and you follow the 10 Commandments of firearm safety and industry-wide practice, these are not replicable situations that they showed. What they showed were a number of situations where had no opportunity to replicate, or they referred to cases where we were not able to replicate, not only us, but the plaintiff's attorneys and outside experts were not able to replicate. So they told a narrative that had a number of cases in there where they would show a video of a police officer on the line in Maine, was a particular example, where he touched the bolt handle and the firearm went off. Now, the Maine Police Department never contacted Remington, never sent any of the guns back, never gave us the opportunity to replicate that particular malfunction that they purport is common to all 700 series firearms. And how do we know this? I mean, we've had complaints over 50 years going on. It's our 6th decade of the 700 being in service. Went into service in 1962.
Wow.
We've had complaints from audiences over the course of time, a very statistically small number of complaints, and we've received them from certain segments of the market. And whenever we've been able to receive those, we have a number of causes. Sometimes it is the person putting his finger on the trigger and not realizing it, or not wanting to realize it afterwards. In some cases, the firearm was altered, and in some cases, the firearm is badly maintained. When I say badly maintained, Cam, I'm talking about, rust and gunk in a fire control to the point where it prevents a fire control from operating properly.
Right.
Now, one of our market segments, which is the most interesting fact to us, that they kind of brushed on during the documentary but did not go too far into, was we have extensive military sales. Our current U.S. Army uses the M24 sniper weapon system, which is a 700 action and has a Walker fire control. They've used it for 20 years. We've sold over 15,000 of these sniper weapon systems to the U.S. Army, the U.S. Air Force, and around the world. We've never received a single complaint. We sell actions and fire controls to the Marine Corps. We sell them to the Special Operations Command. And though they did mention a Marine Corps, someone at Scout Sniper School called them back and said that they had an issue at one point in time, that issue never worked its way back to us. And in our dealings with the military, who tests everything very thoroughly, whose soldiers and Marines and airmen all rely on those weapon systems to keep them alive, they're the end user in an operational environment that has the harshest, the greatest demand. We've never received any of those complaints back. So we feel that is just one of many of the unsubstantiated allegations that was part of that special tonight.
Well, you are a retired Marine captain, right?
Yes, sir.
You served in combat, served in Iraq, Silver Star, Bronze Star, V for Valor, a Purple Heart. Did you either use the 700 in combat? Do you know individuals who did?
My platoon, I was a Force Recon platoon commander. We had numerous 700 series rifles, a short action M40A3 and M40A1 rifles, and we used them in combat in Iraq. I am not a school trained sniper, but what I do know about what a Marine sniper goes through in his training and how Marines overall are taught to deal with their weapon systems. I have never heard of or experienced any issues with the 700 action, and we obviously take our, I take my job very seriously. I just as much, I very much want to get the best tool I can to the hands of the U.S. soldier and U.S. Marine because, they're protecting the freedoms that we enjoy every day. When I see a piece of irresponsible journalism smearing, not only Remington 700s across the board, but also Remington 700s that are in the hands of troops right now that are fighting and dying on our behalf, I take that very seriously. The proud people that work in our plants and work in our headquarters take very seriously because we don't put a faulty system into the marketplace. We don't wake up in the morning and think that we're doing something as irresponsible as they allege.
Well, I thought it was interesting. From what I understand, we were talking during the break, and at the end of this big hour-long television production, apparently the CNBC, was it the reporter that said, and firearms are the only product, sold that are not regulated by the, the Consumer Protection Agency?
The Consumer Product Safety Commission. And we thought that was a very interesting ending to the overall story. And I don't know when CNBC made the transition from a fact-based business reporting organization and then philosophically changed to start doing pieces like this, which are obviously
because this is
biased.
like what the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence has been going after for years. They've got their whole thing. Teddy bears are more regulated than guns are in this country. But I mean, is this the push? Is that what they were going for?
It seemed like they were wrapping it up with a call for we need to regulate guns under the Consumer Product Safety Commission along with all other kinds of products. And back in the 60s, there was an original push for that. But obviously the Second Amendment is something that we at Remington hold dear and that all of our proud hunters and shooters who use the 700 platform and all of our other platforms take very seriously. I guess the hardest part for me watching this tonight is knowing that our proud owners around the world who've owned our guns for 10 years, 5 years, or 3 days that are going into hunting season tomorrow are going to watch CNBC and think about it. And what I would think that they would do, and what I know most of them will do, is say, well, it's not news to them that media, such as CNBC, does not like guns or does not like the gun industry. I think that they're going to go out and say, my gun has served me for the last 10 years or 50 years, and it's no different than it was yesterday just because CNBC said something was different. But it still bothers me that this kind of irresponsible journalism is allowed to continue. And we're refuting it line by line. We've put a website together. We have over 700 testimonials from all walks of life of people testifying to the performance and safety and their overall love of the platform, the 700 platform. It's a celebration of the 700 platform. And on that website, we're going to start posting, refuting line by line a lot of the documents that CNBC would show, where they would show a document in the background in yellow and then they would pull out specific words. Well, some of those documents were 15 and 20 pages long, and they had a lot of context that CNBC neglected to look at directly when they decided that they wanted to tie pieces of it together to create the narrative they wanted.
All right, now we're almost out of time, but just tell me, is it true that at some point they start talking about like company memos from the 1940s when the 700 series wasn't even introduced into the 1960s? They really do that?
Yes, and we obviously prototype a product before we enter it into service. So they actually went into memos that documented, here's what we were thinking during the design process, this might work better than that. And they said, see, they were thinking about this back in 1940.
How dare Remington engage in research and development?
And in thinking about alternative options as we explored. So,
Wow. Well, I got to tell you, Jason, I really appreciate you coming on the program, sir. And, after I get a chance to actually watch this, can we have you back if I've got any additional questions?
Certainly. I would love to come back. And for those viewing at Remington700.tv, that's the site. We are populating it now. We'll be updating it every day with new information for you so that you can see, those of you who saw the show tonight, or you're going to see it later.
All right. Jason Schavel, thanks very much.